All right, it is 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and we are going to give people just a moment or two here to log in and join myself and Shay and Yvette. We are going to be talking about reviews and ratings, which is something all of us teachers pay attention to. So we're just going to give, I'm just watching the numbers here as people are logging in. And when I see it starting to slow down, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to let you know that if you do have a question, there's a Q&A button, two little speech bubbles with Q&A on your Zoom toolbar. And if you click on that, you can put your questions there. And as we can, if we can, we will get to your questions. If not, I will be passing questions on to Latanya and her crew within our Facebook groups, and they will also be answering questions that way for you. All right, so with that, I'm going to remember to hit up. Yep, we are recording. Good. So we are recording and double checking that. All right, again, welcome everybody. My name is Erin Gerard. And on behalf of OutSchool, welcome to our November webinar. We are here with Shay Pepper and Yvette McDonald, two of our veteran teachers, talking about ratings and reviews. And one of the things I also want to mention, I'm going to put this in the chat for everybody. So this is different than the Q&A, but I am going to put in the chat to all of you the link to our support center that's going to give you our policy on authentic reviews. So remember that there are tips for you as teachers when getting your reviews. If you want to thank a teacher, thank a parent, you can send them a private message. You can also respond publicly. I also want to remind you that if you get a bad review, take a breath and give yourself time and pause before responding if you do choose to respond. Google Earth there's Atlantic Ocean on Google Earth even has a negative review. So if the Atlantic Ocean can get a negative review, then yes, it's going to happen to all of us. And just to note that making sure that you follow the policies for OutSchool's review. So please take a moment to review that either now or afterwards. So, all right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Shay and Yvette. And Yvette, will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much, Erin, for having me here today. I'm so excited. My name is Yvette McDonald, and I have been working with OutSchool since April 2020. But I've been an OutSchool parent since 2018, and our family really, really loves OutSchool. And I teach a variety of classes on OutSchool, and currently I am teaching history classes focused on bold women and men in African Americans in American history. And I have this really fun class. If you see these stars behind me, I'm currently teaching a class on how to make window stars for the holiday season. And I also teach Portuguese and belly dancing. So yeah, it's been a great joy to be here and teaching on OutSchool and interact with so many different students from around the world. It's my joy.
All right, thank you so much, Yvette and Shay.
Hi, my name is Shay Pepper, and I am the traveling teach. So I'm on a 5-year, 50-state road trip with my husband and our little dog. COVID has slowed us down, so we're probably going to have to add a year to our trip. But my kind of most successful class and the one that I really love teaching are virtual field trips. So I go to different locations in each place that I am, and then I bring the field trip with videos and photos from the place to the students, usually within a week to 2 weeks of actually being in that place. For example, this week we went to Monticello. Next week we'll be going to the Civil War Medicine Museum. I also teach history. I also teach geography. You can be very glad I do not teach belly dancing, but I do teach pet photography. My history classes are a little bit different. I like to teach the facts and fiction of history. So we read a fictional story alongside of the history, and then we compare and contrast how the story matches up to what history is actually like. Where did the authors get it right? Where did they not get it so right? Where have they taken some creative license? And I typically teach middle and high school.
All right, thank you very much, Shay. So one thing we're gonna start here is we're gonna actually, instead of going right to ratings and reviews at the end of a class, let's talk about the development of a class. So does knowing that there are potentials for reviews, and remember, I do say potentials because we know not every parent is going to leave a review. They can have 30 days up and from the end of the class, and then 30 days to go back and review under their transcript tab. So I'm going to start with Shay and then to Yvette. Does knowing that there are potentials for reviews at the end of your class time influence any of your class development or how you provide instruction?
Not particularly. I think maybe a little bit, as I've been on OutSchool for 2 years. I forgot to mention that in my introduction. I've actually been at OutSchool for 2 years this December. I make the classes that I love to teach and that I think learners would love to take. And then I kind of hope for the best when it comes to the reviews, frankly. But if I do get a couple of reviews, especially that say like, didn't feel like it was interactive enough or something like that, then I might consider, okay, what can I do now? Or can I make a change to the development of this course or how I deliver it to meet the needs of my learners? But honestly, for the most part, I just try and teach what I love and know that the learners that also love that and find that I'm their teacher, I'm a teacher that they connect with, is more important to me than the outcome of the reviews, in terms of like my concerns when I'm making the class.
All right, thank you very much, Shay. And Yvette, how about you? Is there any influence?
Well, to tell you the truth, I feel very much like Shay. I don't. My main goal is to ensure that I'm really connecting with the material that I'm teaching, and I want to teach things that really spark joy for me and get me really excited. Now, what I will say is, I do look forward to getting the reviews. Of course, those are really wonderful, and it really kind of reinforces and supports what I'm already doing. And it kind of propels me and gives me the excitement to continue to move forward. But really what I have in mind is what is really gonna fit well for me, and to ensure that I'm making really good connections with the students. That's what's really, really important. And then I think it just shows, that connection and that passion that I have, at least that I feel that I have. I feel that that comes through, working with the students, the learners, and then that leads to the reviews.
I think you two hit on something really important, is that your passion driven classes, that's going to catch and also help with your reviews. As so both, thank you very much for mentioning that. On communication is very important. We're not face to face, we're not on the phone, we don't even email. We do have our messaging system. So can you tell us, I'm going to start with Yvette here, is what have you found the best ways to communicate with families, or how do you communicate with families on OutSchool? What's been the best way for you? So Yvette, if you want to go ahead and start us off on that one.
Sure. Yeah. I find that just interacting through the OutSchool email is the best way that I communicate with families. And I communicate, from a very sincere, mindful perspective when I'm communicating with caregivers, and really wanting to make sure that I'm listening. If there's a request, I try to do my best to be flexible and really consider particularly the time that we're in. There's so much going on in life in general. You know, this is all new for all of us, right? The pandemic, and then we have, you know, the things that are going on in the country. And so I try to keep that in mind when I'm responding, especially if there's a request that I might normally not oblige. And I try to have a great deal of flexibility and grace. And so I also ensure that I try to do my best to get back within 24 hours. I don't let a message sit longer than 24 hours. And if there's something on my end that I need to request or I'm looking to gain some information from, I do it right away. So for example, if a learner is outside of the age bracket, I don't wait to like 20 minutes before to contact the caregiver. I just, as soon as I get that email on my end and I see something, I immediately start trying to build that communication with the caregiver.
Great. Thank you very much, Yvette. Shay, go for it.
Yeah. So for me, I try really hard to make sure that my professional profile as well as my class information is very detailed. Most parents aren't going to read it. Okay. So please just be aware that that is going to be the case. You are going to put a lot of time and energy into your classroom descriptions and your profiles, and you're going to get some of the same questions, and then I just nicely direct them back to the classroom description or the homework section, things like that. So that's my first line of communication. I have started adding into my welcome message, the one that automatically pops through when a student signs up, an infographic that kind of explains how you do OutSchool and Zoom very briefly with a link to the OutSchool Zoom support link for people. I also include some sort of personal message. So as I mentioned, I teach facts and fiction of history. So I put 2 truths and a lie as part of my welcome, and I want everybody else to play that game with me. And then from there, I use the classroom fairly exclusively. When I have something that I need to tell everyone, I put it in the classroom. Now, that being said, for example, my virtual field trip class, it has a general parental guidance warning on it because it's for 11 to 14s. So it does say we are going to go, because every week is different. Every week is unique. And I don't even necessarily know at the start of a week where I'm going to be at the end of the week for a field trip. I'm going to find what's cool and local. I will then reach out to parents in the classroom and say, additional parental guidance for you this week. We are going to the Civil War Medicine Museum. You can expect there to be discussion of bones and amputations, If your learner does not want to participate because of content, please contact me. And then I refund them and keep them their spot. It's an ongoing class. I don't choose to say, well, unenroll, because I want them to stay enrolled. I'd rather just hit that little refund button. So that's kind of how I communicate. If I have a very big concern about something, I will then private message the parent. And so I use that as kind of my secondary line of communication. If I'm very concerned, for example, we went to the Holocaust Museum. I don't mean very concerned, but if I want to make sure that a parent's not going to be like, classroom comment, I then will say, all right, I send copy paste to every single parent in the class. Please be aware, we are talking about this week. We are talking about slavery. We're talking about the Holocaust, whatever it is. And so that's kind of how I use my kind of lines of communication for my families.
All right, thank you both. I know from your class description, you've got communication. You can message the parents. We can now attach files, and parents can attach files to us. Which
was a game changer.
It was a total game changer. My favorite thing in the classroom is that video icon. So I love to make videos for my classes, and I do a lot with that. And I have found for me that works really, really well. Now on to some review questions here. Shay, if you'll start us off, are you a teacher who responds to reviews, or no? Do you respond publicly, privately, or how do you handle when a review comes in?
Emphatically, yes. We have, I think, 30 days to reply as well. So especially if it was a great review, I don't tend to be like immediately jump on and have something to say about it. But I do try at a batch every week or 2 weeks, go back through, because even though some feedback I've gotten from different people is like, well, I don't reply to the great reviews because it seems trite. I try not to make it that way. I try to make it a genuine thank you for taking the time to review it, because as we know, I've taught X number of students and I have this many reviews. So it's a huge disparity. So I'm grateful for the parents that take the time to review, even the ones, rare though they may be, who don't like me. Shocker. I respond to each and every review. I mean, I've missed a few here and there, but I always respond to each and every review. And if they send me private feedback, I send them private reply. And then I also give a public reply to their public reply. So that is how I choose to do it. I try to reply to each and every review.
All right. Thank you very much, Shay. How about you, Yvette?
I don't reply to every single review, but there are some reviews that are just really, kind of get me right here. And those are the ones that I do reply to. But I do want to let you know is that sometimes I get private, those private reviews. And sometimes I get some, wonderful constructive criticism where I immediately, I think about it, I read it, I listen to it, and I sit with it just for a moment, and respond to let them know that they've been heard. And I am really gracious. I feel so happy that somebody has taken the time to be, really kind and take the time to provide some constructive feedback. And I take the feedback. And then it's just to make me better and to make the class better. And so students can have a better experience and be more successful. And then some of those other reviews, I don't always reply publicly because some of them are just, like I said, they really touch my heart. And that's where I kind of just, I do it privately, and I just send a really, a short little note saying that how grateful I feel or how it really touched me. And sometimes parents share some really big things, in the reviews. And I just want to let them know that it's so much appreciated, because as Shay was saying, there's a disparity of like the amount of classes I've taught and then, the reviews that are there. And it does take a great deal of time to write a review. So I'm always thankful, but I do a little bit of both, publicly and private.
And I understand both of you. I will say that prior to March 2020, when I call the olden days of OutSchool, I would respond publicly to posts. I have gone to privately since then, because I'm like Shay, I've got this 30 days. So I have a folder, I put my reviews in, and I always start by thanking the parent, even if it has something that is critical of the class that they thought should change. I do thank them. And I try very hard to do that. I also have a file, Yvette, that's called Pick Me Up. So if I'm feeling down, I'll go back and read those tearjerker reviews that I get. So you have the choice to respond publicly or privately. You can do that on your teacher profile page. You can do that on your on the class page. Someone asked about, is Facebook advantageous? Well, you can also share those reviews onto Facebook. You can click a button and it will share it to Facebook. So you can share what parents are saying. So those are some things that you to take in consideration. Also taking in consideration what you want to do. And if you have to switch things around, I know I did once March hit, just, you're going to find what works for you. What works for Shay, what works for Yvette, myself, other teachers on OutSchool. Remember, you're creating your own teaching business. We're just here to share some of our best practices that have worked for us over time. Let's see, Yvette, can you tell us what will happen, what you've done if you have gotten a review that you've necessarily not agreed with? How do you handle a negative review?
So, knock on wood, I've been really fortunate that any type of constructive feedback has always been private. And so, as I said before, I sit with it. and I don't allow my ego to take over. I sit with it and I consider it. And I just thank the person for taking the time to kind of point out some things that I could be doing or adding, like, hey, you could add this to the class. It would make it really nice. And you know what, 99.9% of the time, I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea, So it's just making my class better and making me a better teacher, And so I sit with it, and then I do respond and let them know that I've made the changes and how much I appreciate that.
All right. And Shay, how about you?
I too have been very fortunate. I have not gotten too many that I would even call negative. But I've gotten a couple. And both times that I have felt that a review was unfair, it was typically because they said specifically in their feedback something that I specifically addressed in the description of the class. And so I then just, as kindly and gently as possible, I tell them, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing to my attention that maybe my class description is not quite as clear as maybe I had hoped that it was. Here is where you can find that information, things like that. So I've tried to just gently, without being like, I'm amazing and it's in my description, what's wrong with you? I tried to just kind of be like, so hey, this is here, because the one thing that Erin did say is that those reviews are going to stay. And I also don't want misinformation in my reviews. So I do find a way to gently draw it back to, I'm so sorry that maybe this was not communicated as well in the class description as it could have been. Here's where I mention this situation, as a way to kind of gently bring it back, but to make it clear for parents that might come and read that review to be able to go, okay, first of all, she can take feedback. 2, oh, it was there. Okay, maybe I should go back and read the class description, things like that, age range, whatever it is, the variety of different things. But I have had one that really, for me, was incredibly confusing and unfair, and there was no public way to feed it back. It was just numbers that went in to the review numbers. So how do you overcome a 2 when there's no way to say, well, there was a safety issue that I addressed and I'm not sure why you've given me a 2 because I addressed a safety issue. Like, what do you do about that? And literally the way I approach it is, well, I guess I better try and do an amazing job to get some more 5s to average that out. And that's just kind of how you have to look at it, at least from my perspective.
And yes, then the other thing I want to mention too with this is, as Michael put sent a chat into us, simply put, stay positive with whatever is posted. Yes, stay positive. Take what you can from those reviews. Also, if there's a tech issue that the parent is upset about because something was not going right, please reach out to OutSchool, reach out to support. If you do feel like there is a review that is unfair for some reason, please reach out to OutSchool. They do have are in contact with parents who do rate classes, and they follow up with parents when there are concerns. So just know, if you do have a question, please reach out to support directly. Unfortunately, we can't answer any specific questions like this, but you can always reach out to support@outschool.com. So what would you give teachers, if you could, 1 or 2 tips, Shay and then Yvette, on what to do if you get either positive or when you get a positive or a negative review?
It's going to be really hard. Don't stress on it. Okay. Like, literally, especially when you're new and you're like, but I have like 5 reviews and 4 of them are 5s, and then I have this one 4 and this 4 is going to bring it down. And now it's a thing. Don't stress about it. You're going to get more reviews. They're going to come through. Some are going to be higher. Some are going to be lower. I really had to have a serious talk with myself after the first year saying, Shay, you are not everyone's cup of tea. Unfortunately, I know I'm amazing. Most people know I'm amazing. Not everyone likes amazing. So you just have to let them do what they're going to do. So try not to stress about it. The second thing is, there are going to be people out there who are literally never going to give you a 5. It would not have mattered if you met every single criteria criteria on their checklist and you gave them $500, they were never going to give you a 5. Okay. So you just have to kind of, I try and look at it as 1, 2 is below average, 3 is average, 4 is doing really good, 5 is excellent. My average review is 4.9. I'm working towards very excellent, and I can be okay with that when I get the occasional 3 or 4 and that one stinky 2.
Yes, it can be hard. It can be hard, but I think you've got some great advice there. Yvette, how about you?
I think it's really important to remember to stay professional. This is a business, it's your own business. And it just, if there's a need to respond, take that time, sleep on it, breathe. And also, take out the ego. There's, sometimes, I've read some things on some groups where, it's easy to kind of get up all in your feelings and your emotions and be like, blah, 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 blah. But really to just, okay, take a breath and not respond with the ego, and really, just be professional. Just be professional at the end of the day, because even in that response, is going to be so important of whether a parent chooses to come back or not, or I'm sorry, a caregiver or an adult chooses to come back based on how you respond. It's customer service. That's what we're offering. We're offering customer service. And I think that is so, so important.
You are right. This is customer service and we do need to be professional. So remember that. And that's why as Yvette said, take the ego out, sleep on it, breathe. Both of you, Shay and Yvette, have had some great recommendations. Now let's back it up a little bit more. Let's take reviews and ratings out of the picture here. And if you do have any questions, we're gonna be wrapping up here in the next 4 minutes. I have one more question I'm going to have Yvette and Shay answer, but go ahead and use the Q&A. And if we don't get to it, again, I'll be passing on questions to LaTanya and her crew for our Facebook groups to answer. So Yvette, I'm going to start with you. Looking back at your time as an OutSchool teacher since April and a parent before that, what would you have done? What's maybe one or two things you would have done different or wish someone had told you?
Okay, I'm going to own this. I want to own this in front of everybody right now. The one thing that I would have done differently is the way in which I chose to respond. And I remember very clearly to 2 courses that I had put forth for approval. And I would have chosen a different way to respond to those class approvals when they weren't approved. And in the moment, it was a heightened season around April, May, and June. I totally would have taken back, if I can rewind it, add some grace, put some grace, sprinkle a whole bunch of grace on top of it with a cherry of grace and passion, compassion and empathy with all of that. I kind of forgot myself for a moment. I'm going to own it. And I'm sorry for those people who were at the other end. Here's my chance to say, I'm sorry, who were sitting at the other end. That is one of my biggest regrets. And I would just advise, if you don't mind, just, you may not get the class approved at the first time. That's okay. Just once again, same thing with the reviews. Just take some time, take it as constructive feedback, see how you can kind of work around it, right? And do what they're asking before you go full in there and start charging. So that is one of the absolute things I would have done differently. Yeah, thank you for asking. And thanks for it, because it gave me an opportunity now to publicly apologize.
And I will be sure to message our class approval team and say, hey, everyone, you need to watch today's recording because there's something very profound being said to you all. Yvette, thank you. It's hard to kind of own, it can be hard to own those and admit those wrongs, and doing it so gracefully and humbly in front of us. I do appreciate it. I know class approvals can be tenuous, stressful situations sometimes. We're going to wrap it up with you, Shay. What's one thing you would wish someone had told you or you would have done?
All right. So what I'm actually going to say is something that was told to me, and it was told to me again and again and again and again. And I kept being like, yeah, okay, I get it. And still 2 years later, I'm now the person who tells people, and they're like, yeah, okay, I get it. I'm like, no, really. Um, it takes time to build a following on this platform. You are not getting 30 children sent into your room that come down the hall because they live in your district and they are going to come and they're going to have to sit and listen to you. This is where your business is a business. Yes, you were an educator. Yes, you were a teacher. Yes, you can love the children. Yes, the children can be first. This is a business. Okay. So it will take time to build your following. Teach one kid. At first, you're going to be like, but that doesn't make me any money. No, but now 2 years later, I am making that money. Okay. So you need to do one. And then when you're done with that class, say to them, thank you so much for taking a chance on a new teacher and a new class. I really appreciate it. And I would love it if you would leave a review. No matter what your feedback is, please consider leaving a review because it helps other learners find my class. That's what I would say is just if you came in with the COVID rush and you're like, I had 30,000 children, now I have 4 and it's September and I don't understand. That's how it is here. Okay. You came in an exceptionally amazing / horrible / crazy time in April and May. I'm sure Yvette can speak to that. I was teaching 35 classes a week. I can understand. It was crazy. It jumped up. It's now how it was a little bit before that. And you just have to take the time. Okay. So, and also you're going to get feedback in those reviews. Take it, listen to it. You don't have to implement it immediately. If you implement it immediately, you might do crazy things to your class and you don't have enough backing it up to say, yes, this was a great idea to change my class completely after one piece of feedback. So take your time. All right. Takes time. Take your time.
It's true. It does take time to build up your business. And remember, this is a business. You're going to want to think about how you can professionally respond. Think about how each time you teach that class, that's the very first time you've taught that class. I mean, there were weeks where I would teach molten lava cake 3 times, but you know what? Each time was brand new for each of those kids. So you teach when you're passionate and when you're excited. And I still love teaching my molten lava cake because you have to eat it afterwards. And yeah, can you hear me? Oh, I was gonna say, all right. So with that, everybody, we are going to need to wrap up here at time. If there are more questions, please feel free, if you to check out support.outschool. You've taught your pet class. I know your photography. Your class is on my list. Both of you have classes on my list. I love teaching my molten lava cake. I love all my classes. But it's so much fun, and especially when you get to eat cake for homework. I mean, come on. What's better than cake for homework? Maybe taking pictures of your pets or learning about some amazing Americans that are and other people, or creating stars to put on your windows, or whatever it is that you're passionate about that you're teaching on OutSchool. So to all of you who are watching and hanging out with us, or who are going to be watching our recording, we're here to support you. We're here to help you build that business. And please reach out and to our class quality team, to that teacher who referred you, to the cohorts, the Facebook groups, whatever it is that works for you to keep learning and growing as you build your OutSchool teaching business. So again, everyone, thank you for joining Yvette and Shay, taking this 33 minutes. We're going a little long. This 33 minutes for professional development and listening to some veteran teachers. And with that, if you would like to watch the recording to catch up some more, it'll be posted to YouTube in the next day or 2. So again, everyone, thank you for joining us, and best of luck with your teaching business.